Hello everybody, it's Infinity Break, coming at you today with a little bit of a theory, I suppose you could say. I'm not doing the Jonathan Suhai theory just yet. I wanted to let it sit in my mind a little bit so I can understand it a little bit more. So today I'm going to actually be sitting down with one that you guys might find interesting. I had this idea the other day, and it was this idea about the Civil War in Skyrim. Everybody's really gung-ho for one side or the other, where they think the whole thing's stupid or underwhelming, or sometimes even a little bit of both. But honestly, the concept of the Civil War is something interesting, and something that people who are fans of Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series in general are looking forward to how it's resolved within the next Elder Scrolls game, Elder Scrolls 6. You see, anybody who plays Skyrim seems to have their kind of weight shifted to one side or the other when it comes to the Civil War. You're either a Stormcloak sympathizer or an Imperial sympathizer. That, or you just think the whole thing is stupid and don't care about it at all, which is fair enough, as both sides have their flaws and issues, but they also have their points. And that's exactly why people are so, kind of gung-ho for it. They really want to see which side wins because they want to know the outcomes and see which one was actually the better outcome in the end. When Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, I'm sure there will be a resolution to it, or at least mentioned some way, shape, or form, as I think it might actually have something to do with the plot of the next Elder Scrolls game, considering the fact that the Skyrim Civil War kind of kicks off a chain reaction, or actually can lead to help or hinder the events of the next game's sort of, I suppose you could say, feud with the Aldmeri Dominion. For those of you who don't know, the reason the Imperials and, by extension, Skyrim are in such turmoil by the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is because the Aldmeri Dominion have actually meddled with the events of men and how they can live their lives. Now, the Aldmeri Dominion, or the High Elves, or Aldmer, or Altimer, or whatever you want to call them, are basically the overlords at this point, trying to manipulate people so that they can usurp power and enact their master plan, which is to become divine again, and to basically rule over all of the pathetic mortal men and other beast folk that reign in the land of Tamriel. They really want to just pull out the carpet from the Imperials, essentially. In order to do this, they had to beat them in basically a grand war, the Great War, that happened between the events of Oblivion and Skyrim. This war saw the outcome of the Imperials actually signing the White Gold Concordat, which outlawed the worship of the Ninth Divine Talos, or the One in the 8 and 1. See, the Altmer don't believe in Talos, and they think that it's silly that a man can actually go through the events that, most High Elves want to actually go through, which is becoming a divine. Now, if you know a little bit more about Talos, he's not just one man who had transcended. It's more like 3 men or 3 beings, as the Underking was sort of a multi-being. It's really disturbing and really kind of confusing lore, but that's a topic for another video altogether. What you need to know essentially though is that the Outlaw of Talos basically kicked off the Civil War in Skyrim, as the Altmeri Dominion is trying to enforce this law of outlawing Talos, while the Imperials are basically having no choice but to assist them. This pisses off the people of Skyrim, who really worship Talos, as Talos is actually Talos of Admora, Tiber Septim, the person who founded the Empire, and was really a figurehead and an honorable figure in the eyes of most of the Skyrim citizens. Now, you basically already know this if you played Skyrim, but what exactly are the outcomes of the Civil War between the Stormcloak Rebellion and the Imperial Legion? The Imperials have an interesting outcome as mostly just keeping Skyrim in the same position it was before. With the death of High King Torygg, they have to wait for the Moot to, basically vote a new king into the position of High King of Skyrim, or at this point they might just use Elisif, but it's unlikely, as I'm pretty sure most people don't think Elisif can really lead all of Skyrim. She's more of a temporary placeholder in place of Torygg while everything is kind of going down. See, the outcome of the Imperial victory is mostly just the idea of the Imperials keeping peace while they bide time, while they try to come up with a plan to beat the Thalmor. This could be the outcome of Skyrim Civil War, where the Imperials actually do manage to push back the rebellion, but they're weakened to a point, and either the Thalmor take advantage of that weakness in that moment, or they manage to actually bounce back from it, and the Imperials might manage to actually gain a foothold, and might still actually succeed in biding time and finding some sort of solution during the events of Elder Scrolls 6, or between the events of Skyrim and Elder Scrolls 6, that allowed them to actually push back the Thalmor, and maybe the civil war between, or should I say the big war that's just going to happen between the Thalmor and the Imperials, might be one of the center conflicts within the next game. Now, the Stormcloak Rebellion has probably a little bit more of an interesting option. Now, I'm not saying I don't side with the Imperials. I actually more side with the Imperials than I do with the Stormcloaks. Don't come at me. Both sides are terrible in their own way, shape, or form. I just think at the end of the day I like the Imperials a little bit more because of what I've seen them as in the previous games. The Stormcloaks, though, produce a more interesting option, as honestly, we might see a really big fight, or at least a joint effort rebellion against the Thalmor for what they're doing to man. See, what I think it would be very interesting to happen would be the Stormcloaks either have one of two options. They either get crushed by the Thalmor immediately after winning the Civil War of Skyrim within the next year or so, or they actually go on to cause a very big conflict with the Thalmor that might actually see other races and other provinces join in up against the Thalmor. See, we might see people such as the, Red Guards of Hammerfell might actually side with the Stormcloaks, which most people are actually speculating that Hammerfell is going to be the setting of the next game. So we could see the Stormcloaks actually assisting the Red Guards and trying to fight off the Thalmor if they are trying to return and take back Hammerfell. Now, of course, this could not be the case. Maybe the Red Guards are currently dealing with the Thalmor. Maybe they actually bended the knee to them, doing maybe some political manipulation. Maybe half of Hammerfell is currently trying to be sided with the Thalmor and the other half is trying to fight them off. But I think this is unlikely, as the Thalmor tried to invade previously during the years between Oblivion and Skyrim, and they failed actually and got kicked out of the lands of Hammerfell, basically just by the pure might of the Red Guards, which is actually kind of impressive and is a testament to how strong the Red Guards are at this point. Now see, if the might of the Stormcloak Rebellion, led by Ulfric Stormcloak, manages to actually sweep through and assist Hammerfell in fighting off the Unmarried Dominion, or maybe we might see a vice versa, where Skyrim is actually under siege by the Thalmor, and maybe the Red Guards came to their aid. But if that happened, then it might not be shown in the next game, as it's most likely that the next game will take place in a brand new setting, in a brand new province that we haven't seen before. And returning to Skyrim probably wouldn't be the best idea for Bethesda, considering how many times they've already re-released Skyrim. Seeing Skyrim again might be kind of a bad idea, but it would be interesting to go back for a DLC, to go back maybe to the area between Hammerfell and Skyrim to see how the Nords and the Red Guards might team up in just fighting off Thalmor. Maybe that'll be the plot of a DLC at least. But the Skyrim Civil War at this point has two options, like I said. So we can either see the Imperials try to keep the peace and maybe hold out in hopes that they might get an upper hand over the Thalmor in the future by playing the long game, or the Stormcloaks win and either they get crushed immediately, or they actually manage to rise up, hold off the Thalmor, and manage to actually form a resistance against their elven overlords. This is a very interesting outcome. Now, most people think that there's a third option, which is actually the Peace Summit that was held during the main quest of Skyrim if you hadn't completed the Civil War. Now, I'm just going to say I don't think that the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take place a short enough time during the events of Skyrim, essentially, to the point where we're going to see both the Imperials and the Stormcloaks still at a stalemate. I think there's going to be a resolution at this point, and I don't believe this will be the outcome. Honestly, there's just too much time that will need to take place between Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim and Elder Scrolls 6. There's too much time for this stalemate to still be happening. Someone is going to win, or the Thalmor are basically going to keep the Civil War going, but that is also another option. Maybe the Thalmor will keep it going, because they were trying to keep the Civil War going as long as possible, so that the Empire, the Empire and Skyrim would both be weakened to the point where if they actually tried to be taken over by the Thalmor again, they could just do so. So maybe that is the third option. Maybe the Civil War will keep going. Maybe the Thalmor will still be pulling strings. Maybe it'll only be a year or two after Skyrim, just like with Morrowind to Oblivion. I believe it was only 4 years apart from one another, just like Arena was 10 years apart from Daggerfall, and I think Daggerfall was only about, I believe, 8 years away from Morrowind. I might get the numbers wrong, but they weren't that far apart. Skyrim was the furthest forward that we actually took when it came to time skips. It took 200 years, which is a little bit different. But yes, this is basically just a little bit of a theory, speculation, discussion, whatever you want to call it. I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about this for kind of like the theorizing that I typically do on Mondays. And I didn't want to take Jonathan Suhai's theory just yet. I might save it for this week, but I definitely will be getting to it. And I'm going to be working on something this coming week. And I'm not going to say what it is, because I keep saying, it's coming, it's coming. You already know what it is, but I'm going to keep working on that this week. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any ideas, any theories, anything that might, provoke a video, let me know by reaching me down in the comment section, hitting me up through an email, reaching me through my Twitter, or reaching me through my Discord. All links will be down in the description, and just let me know. I love showcasing your guys' ideas as much as I like making videos, so let me know. Either way, this has been Infinity reminding you all to say it with me now. Play well, eat well, and of course live well, friends. Hope you guys go out there and strive to break Infinity, and I hope you guys have a nice day, night, evening, wherever and whenever you're at. Take it easy, guys.